those companies I can work with because they want to make money and me want to make money too. But if it's a case where the company are dishonest and they're going to tell you that, oh, this is how we do it and we now fix it because they still want to use your licensing information inappropriately. So today I went down a rabbit hole regarding chronic care management. I just had a few questions that I needed answer for. And what I was thinking initially is actually what really is supposed to be happening. If you're new here, my name is Stacey. Welcome to the page, and I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't tuned in as yet, or if you haven't subscribed as yet, rather, I would love for you to go ahead and subscribe to my page here at Think Nursing. You can also follow me on my other page. It's featured down below, Stacey in Real Life. I just do additional things outside of nursing, so you can go over there and subscribe to that page as well and be a part of the family. But you know, chronic care management, or let me just give you a background. So I work as a house call nurse practitioner, and I just want to share with you some information that we need to know regarding our nursing, license. And especially when we see all of these nurses being arrested, doctors being arrested, or healthcare providers being arrested because of different things that are happening out there, you have to make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's. You are checking off certain things and making sure that you're aware of what is being billed when it comes on to your nursing license. And I've always been the kind of person that is always wanting to try to make sure that my nursing license is protected as best as I possibly can, because it's only one license, one life may have, and without my nursing license, I don't know what my life will look like, because I'm not trained in any area outside of nursing. So I have to protect whatever it is that I am trained and licensed to do. So a lot of times, persons are confused regarding your chronic care management as well as your nurse practitioner face-to-face in-person visit that you do per month. And both of them are they're completely different. They are different in the sense that chronic care management is a specific program that a lot of insurance company or Medicaid have for patients that they can enroll in. So for example, a patient has one or two, or I think it has two or more chronic, illnesses, diabetes, heart problem, thyroid problem, stroke, whatever it is that they have, you can have those patients enroll in it. And a lot of times you might see that patients that are, in the house call setting, you go and visit them in assisted care, nursing home, you visit them in their own home. A lot of those patients do have a lot of chronic problems, and we do address them on a monthly basis. We see them for their diabetes, their cholesterol, obesity. We see them and we treat them. But the difference with that, that standard of care and the chronic care management is that with the chronic care management, there are certain things that you definitely have to do. You have to have a consent specifically that says that the patient is wanting, or the patient has consented to chronic care management per month, and then they can opt out if they don't want to. But you must explain that and they must sign it off. If you have a general consent for the practice treatment, in that consent, you need to show where it says that the patient is informed of treatment plans or management plans, such as like your chronic care management, that they have the option to, refuse if they don't want it. A lot of times patients will do get it. If they meet the criteria, they will consent to it. But as I say, when it comes on to me, I'm not really a fairly new nurse practitioner, but I always want to try to make sure that the standard of care is being met. And when it comes on to documentation, I have the documentation, because as a provider, no, it's not like when I was a nurse. Like there are certain things that, you'll be doing as a nurse and that's just it. No, I'm a provider. My roles have expanded so much, and there's so much legalities when it comes on to my nursing license, the things that I'm doing. And so I want to just make sure that I am protecting it and I'm doing whatever they are requesting, insurance company are requesting, whatever the standard of care is. I am doing it as best as I possibly can. I'm trying not to omit or, refuse to do certain things because I'm looking the easy way out. So for me, working as a house call nurse practitioner now, I do see patients with a lot of underlying, medical problems, and I do treat them. So when you think about chronic care management, make sure that you have that consent. Make sure you have that consent that I talk about that speaks specifically to assigning the patient into chronic care management. You also want to make sure that they have their conditions. Then it is going to be it's going to be about 20 minutes. You can spend 20 minutes or more none face-to-face contact with the patient. So say for example, I'm the provider that goes in to see the patient per month, for follow-up, going and see them for their diabetes, or going and see them for headaches, or whatever it is I'm going to see them for that month. That face-to-face encounter is not considered to be chronic care management. It is not. So you see your patient and you do whatever it is you want to do. You order labs, x-rays, you have somebody in the office that is doing all of those things, following up or sending out the request. All of those things that they're doing in the office regarding communicating with home health services, doing the referrals, calling patients to check in on them if they've been hospitalized or anything. A lot of that information is gathered by the medical staff in the office. It's not something that you have to go in and see the patient. A lot of times it's just like communication on the phone. And then you always have a care plan that you're working with. So say for example, the patient is diabetic or the patient is hypertensive. You want to talk about what is your goal for each of those, and you list them out. And so you always go back to reviewing the chronic care management plan that you have outlined for the patient. So you have to be aware of the plan. You have to see it because you are overseeing everything that is happening with that management of the patient, the chronic care management. So at the end of the day, you're supposed to be signing off because you're going to be sending off that bill for the chronic care management. So for me, that is very important, because if I don't have all of those, I'm not going to be accepting that provider role for chronic care management. I can still see the patients, but it doesn't mean that I have to accept the role of being their chronic, care manager or their provider for chronic care management. Another person can actually be the provider of record for the chronic care management, where they're overseeing the plan of care, that care plan for the patient. And then I can still see the patient as their provider, and then they will still attach that chronic care management to the bill. But at the end of the day, it has the provider who has a different NPI from my NPI that is attached to that. And that record is saying that provider is the one that is accessing and managing everything inside of chronic care management. But what they'll do is they will go ahead and bill chronic care management there as a part of the service, because I'm seeing the patient that month. They will add that chronic care management as a part of the service and just send it off as one bill. The person that actually renders the care for the chronic care management for that patient during that time. I hope you understand, but you can have somebody that is a provider of the record for chronic care management, and then you can be the patient's primary care provider who sees the patient face to face, and then from there you send off one bill and it is billed through your NPI. What you need to make sure that you have understanding of when it comes down to the different things that are billed for your patients with your NPI. You need to be able to tell what it is that they're billing, the date, the time, which patient. Is it a patient that I saw? So make sure all of that is something that you're aware of, because if you're not aware of it and something happens and there is a claim or there is an audit and somebody asks you, okay, then tell me about this vaccine. Why did you order it? You need to know where to find that encounter for the vaccine. So you can say, okay, then, well, the vaccine was given by my staff nurse. I wasn't the one who physically, administer it, but I'm sending off the bill for it because it's a part of my plan of care for the patient. So you need to be able to track certain things and not just saying, okay, then yes, my NPI is going to be covered for CCM because you are the assigned provider. You can be the assigned provider, but you don't have to be the provider of care for, or provider of record or rendering services for that specific plan. It would be just like when you are sending over your visit for the month. Sometimes you might see that, there are additional things that are added to your super bill, things that you never did, but persons in the office did, but it's still a part of the patient care. So they will add it as a part of the visit and send it off to the insurance. But it should have different NPIs that are associated with it, because you might have, they might be sending off a bill for this patient, but the patient might have had, psych seeing them, the patient might have had pain management seeing them, but it's sent under one, bill to the provider. So that is my understanding of it. You have to have a different provider, or you have to make sure that you're assigned. When it comes on to auto assigning, that is something that you might realize that some companies will do. They might not tell you that the patients are, for chronic care, or you will know that the patient is a part of chronic care management, but the patients are automatically assigned to you. You don't want that. You want to make sure that whenever they assign you 10 patients, you are overseeing those 10 patients and you know where the records are. So if something happens, you can go back to that record, because as I say, you're responsible for whatever is done. So at the end of the month, they will go ahead and create that chronic care management plan. They will do it, as I say, a lot of times the time is spent by the office creating that, but you still have to oversee it. It's your responsibility just the same. So they will send it, and then you just go through to make sure everything is okay and you sign off on it. At the end of the day, it is a job that you're doing and you're not working for free. So it should be something that is compensated to you. If it is not, then you need to make sure that you're putting it in your, your contract. Is it something that, is a part of your flat rate already? Is it something that is not a part of your flat rate? Make sure that it is clearly outlined in your contract. So that way, if something does happen, you can always go back to it to say, okay, then. If you feel as though you want a portion of it, there are different ways for you to get a certain percentage off or a set value. You can talk with your manager or the owner or the boss regarding how are you going to be compensated for your chronic care management time, because you're not working for free. You're an independent contractor. So you want to make sure that you speak with them to see how you're going to be contracted. Personally, I feel as though if they're not going to be paying you for that bill, if they're not going to be paying you, if they want you to go through care plan and all of those things, and then attach your NPI to it. It's not only about attaching NPI, it's about the responsibility, the risk. You understand? You're taking a risk with that encounter. So if you're taking the big risk, you must have some financial, gain or compensation from it. You shouldn't be doing anything that is going to land you or possibly land you somewhere else outside of your profession because of something that you did, and you never make sure that you're aware of the different things that are being done with that one little thing that you're doing. So you want to make sure that you're aware, where to access it whenever you need it. So you know all the patients that you have access to, and not be blindly enrolling something and not being compensated. Because as I say, at the end of the day, if something does happen, you're going to be the person that they're calling on regarding clarification. And if you can't find the docket, or not docket, if you can't find documentation of it, who, when, where, why, if you don't have any information regarding the encounter, that can be a problem for you. So just make sure that you have access to all of those and you're doing the right thing when it comes on to your license. So just make sure you're asking the right questions, even though sometimes the questions might feel uncomfortable. Yes, make sure you ask them, because the things that are, answered in silence or assumptions, if you assume things, then when the time comes and you're supposed to prove it, you can't go by assumption. You can't say that, the person was quiet, so them agree. So you have to have it in documentation, clearly documented, so that way in the event that later on you need reference, it is there and both parties are of the same understanding based on what is documented and signed. So in short, as I say, when it comes on to your your CCMs, make sure that you are compliant with everything that you're doing. And in order for you to be compliant, you have to have the things that I did spoke about. All right, you have to have them. Yes, so just make sure that you go through your patient's chart and make sure you ask relevant questions from early, so that way you can close any gaps, any misunderstanding. Because in the end, it's your nursing license. It's you alone going up to the council. Companies will replace you instantly, but you are going to have to be struggling and fighting with your nursing license. So don't let anybody take your NPI, your DEA, and just put it on a docket or on a document because they have access to it. One thing that I personally do not allow right now as an independent nurse practitioner is electronic signature. The electronic signature must be a case where me sign it, but I don't want anything to say that it was electronically signed by Stacy and that's it. I like to put my finger on it, or if it's electronically signed by Stacy, it must means that I get a copy after I sign it. But I don't want to see random papers looking like PDF files being created and my signatures on it, and I don't know about it. So that's the last thing I'd want. So make sure that you speak up regarding what it is that you want your NPI to be used for, how it's supposed to be used when it comes on to documentation, reviewing, signing, any approvals that needs to be done. How is it that you want to go about with it? So as I say, these are things that you need to have a better understanding of. Read your contracts. If your contracts are not clear enough, make sure you try to get a better understanding of how your NPI is going to be used before you start signing away your life on paper, or before persons start attaching your NPI to different things and you don't have a better understanding. The good thing about my company is that, they're pretty open to me asking questions and taking suggestions, because it's a case where they need the patients to be seen. They need a provider. And I feel as though I am giving excellent care right now. I've always been I feel as though I'm always giving good care. So if they are uncomfortable with me asking questions regarding my NPI and how it's being built, because I am not fully aware of how it is or was being used, these are certain conversations you probably never had, done before. But as you go along, questions do arise. And so when them pop up, I just go ahead and ask. If you realize there are certain things you're finding out about your company that you're not aware of, go ahead and ask the questions. Ask the questions. What I love about my company is that they're pretty transparent. So if I don't understand something, or if something is bothering me because of what I saw, I try to find out, and then they will explain it and let me understand it. So make sure you ask the questions that you need. A company that is willing to work with you, because you might have seen something that need a little fix. They will work with you and fix the problem so you're comfortable. Those companies I can work with because they want to make money and me want to make money too. But if it's a case where the company are dishonest and they're going to tell you that, oh, this is how we do it and we now fix it, because they still want to use your licensing information inappropriately, then definitely I would say you have to leave those companies. But if you realize the company that you're working with are open, they're transparent, they probably don't understand what they're doing, but they have a company, just make sure you explain it and you understand what they're saying and they understand you. And then you guys can go about with either implementing a new contract or change in order to make sure that everything is compliant for insurance company. And not only for that, for you and your license. So that's where I am with certain things. I will definitely share with you some more, but go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube page and let me know in the comment box if you realize that there's certain, discrepancies with certain things and you're not really so sure about it. How would you go about with addressing it? Would you speak with your boss? If your boss is like a friendly person, or would you send an email, a text message? How would you go about with it? Or will you be doing any addressing of the problem, or you just continue working and getting your money, or just leave? Let me know which one of the options you would choose, and then from there we can have a conversation. Until then, I'll see you. Remember to go ahead and subscribe. Bye.